Hello, this is Dr. AnthonyChaffee. I'm here with a special guest, my buddy Joshua, who has a very good success story. He's just recently come on to a carnivore diet. We've been in contact over social media for the last few months. I've been helping him through some ups and downs and getting his way closer and closer to a pure carnivore diet. And even though it hasn't come all the way there, he still has significant improvements and benefits. So we're just going to talk about that today. Joshua, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Doc. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So once you tell us to begin with, how did you come across a carnivore diet? How did you start this up in the first place, and when? And what were you eating before, and sort of what did you notice when you made the switch over?
Well, I first started carnivore. I came across, kind of like yourself, Sean Baker's video with Joe Rogan about the carnivore diet. But previously, before him, I had come across a doctor who is actually here in Tampa, USF. His name is Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast many times. Sean Baker, who you interviewed today, has interviewed him several times. I know I sent you video feeds. I actually got to meet him. I was introduced to the ketogenic diet because 5 years ago I was diagnosed as a diabetic, and I had come across Dr. Jason Fung on YouTube. I came across Dr. Ken Berry, who I saw that you interviewed recently. I came across his books, and I just saw this movement of people who were pushing the ketogenic diet to help diabetes, which I had type 2 when I was diagnosed. Nobody in my family is diabetic, but I was 43 when I got diagnosed in September of 2017. And I had no idea what I was dealing with. And I got really emotional. I'm crying in front of my wife like a sniveling little brat. And it was found out during the pre-employment physical for the agency I work at now. I'm in law enforcement, and I didn't think I was going to get hired because I thought it would be your liability. Your A1C is too high. My fasting blood sugar was 229. So, but nobody said anything about medication. They just said I needed to get a clearance letter from my doctor saying I was under care, and I got hired. And then it just went down from there. But I started to do some research on the ketogenic diet. I came across some books, The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance by Jeff Nolan. No, he's at Ohio. And then it was Verta Health. Maybe you've heard of it before.
I don't think I've come across it myself.
And Dr. Jeff Volek wrote this book on the art and science of low carbohydrate living. And they had this guy named Jimmy Moore who lost all this weight on the keto diet. And so it just led into a string of other people. And I just started watching all the videos, and I started experimenting with it and, getting some good success. But I've noticed, looking back now, there was always some kind of treats where you could substitute ice cream with ketogenic ice cream, or you could substitute keto cakes for the regular cakes and the sodas. And then you're really not doing anything. You're just eating different food, but having the same, side effect that you told me about with regards to the sweets and the taste receptors. And so anyway, I went to the University of South Florida and actually got to meet Dominic D'Agostino twice and talk to him about the ketogenic diet and field questions. I never got a chance to. I should have recorded it. I kind of kicked myself for not doing it, but he would remember me if you had a chance to talk to him, because I actually brought the X3 bar, which I have, I got. That's another side story, but I got that back in 2018 and brought it out to the college to show him my new toy. Mm-hmm. And then the carnivore diet, I started it in 2000, right before COVID hit in 2019.
Okay.
Beginning of 2019, I played around with it for a little while, and I lost like 18 pounds in a month and a half. And my A1C was kind of doing the roller coaster. I went from like 9.8 to 7.2, and then back up to 9.3, I think, because I fell off the wagon. Mm-hmm. And then in December, when I found you on Instagram through a clip on cooking the steaks, I just went ahead, and I think you had some videos on your channel that I got to watch. And that's when I reached out to you. I said I had enough. I turned 48 in December, and just celebrated with the pizza and the ice cream, and my blood sugar was literally it was 284. Yeah. I literally felt like I got hit by a train, and that was like it. I said no more for like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And that's been the struggle that, like you interluded earlier about, it's been a real battle. It really has, especially being diabetic. I'm not out of the woods yet, but it's legitimate. Everything you said about being like meth and the addictions and the things I laugh at when I deal with some of these guys that are addicted to drugs, I see it firsthand, and it's like, yeah, that's you too, just on a different aspect.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how I found Carnivore. I bought his book, I read it, but I think some people need their hands held a little bit more than others when it comes to dealing with these things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, some people have like a clear purpose and drive when they get on this. Like when, I started this, it was fairly easy for me because I stopped eating plants because I learned exactly how toxic plants were. And I'm like, there isn't a chance in hell that I'm going to eat that now, nasty stuff. So I just stopped. And then when I came back on this, 4 or 5 years ago, after seeing Dr. Baker on Joe Rogan, it just reaffirmed what I knew, 15 years before that, which was that plants are poisonous and they use toxins to defend themselves and we shouldn't eat them. And so it was very easy for me to drop that again. But, obviously not everybody, understands that to the depth that I did at the time. And not everybody cares as much as I did, because that's the thing. I really didn't want any of that in my body. So it was very easy for me to get rid of it. Whereas, if people don't realize how much of an effect it's having on their body, or they don't necessarily care that much, obviously they're not going to change anything. It's like, people who smoke and they enjoy smoking and they're like, yeah, I really should stop smoking. But, it's like, if they don't have a hard reason to do it, they're probably not going to do it because they enjoy it. So it's the same for food. And obviously people enjoy eating different things and they want to eat pizza. They want to eat gelato. They want to have cookies. They're nice. They taste good, but
well, there's a backstory to how I got to this too, because like I mentioned before we got on the interview, I didn't have anyone in my family who's diabetic, but I used to play basketball since I was a little kid. That was my sport. And I was never a big guy. I was just a basketball. My mom married my stepfather. He was an officer in the Air Force. We moved all over the United States. I played basketball at the youth centers. We played full court basketball. I went in the military. I played basketball. I was a skinny guy. I never lifted weights. And then in 2000, when I was in the Army Reserves, I blew my knee out. I got clipped and my knee went all the way to the right while I was cutting to the left. So yeah, ACL ruptured. Didn't have an ACL for 15 years. Didn't have it reconstructed. Couldn't afford it. And then when I got into law enforcement down here, someone got me into I ended up going from 180 pounds to 340 pounds in 3 years. Because I continued to eat the same amount of food that I was eating when I was playing full court basketball, but I wasn't playing basketball anymore. I was just sitting on the couch with a knee injury. And next thing I know, I'm 340 pounds at 29 and just looked horrible. And someone told me about, some guy was powerlifting at the state system that I was in at the time and gave me like a Flex magazine. And then he put me on a diet, and he was a really bodybuilder and got me into weightlifting. And then 4 years later, I went from 340 down to 240. And then I started doing that 6 meals a day, the carbs and the cheat meals. And then it just kind of steamrolled into where it ended me at the age of 43 in 2017. I just kept kind of eating ridiculous amounts of food, thinking I needed to do that to build muscle. And I got worse.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any truth to that whole entire realm, because I made myself sick by eating 6 meals a day. And now I'm like, who does that in the world? Who really has time on a job to eat 6 meals every 2 hours?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the backstory, but never had anyone in my family diabetic. Nobody. Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and that just sort of reiterates the point that these things, especially things like type 2 diabetes, they are from diet. It's not familial. It's like you may have a familial predisposition to getting these sorts of things. Meaning you'd be more susceptible to getting it, but you still have to eat the wrong things. If you don't eat the wrong things, you don't get it. And generally, why these things run in families is because families, children often take on the eating habits of their parents, and then they pass those on to their kids as well. And so it's very typical for you to see these things run in families. And even when it has, little to nothing to do with genetics. Like, obesity running in families, like, is that genetics? Everyone have, thyroid issues? Like, maybe, but probably
Because my
not.
mom and brother, they're skinny and lean, and I'm the
Yeah.
exact opposite of them. So, and I didn't,
Yeah.
going back to what you said about vegetables, I've never liked vegetables.
Yeah.
Never. Hated them since I was a kid. But going back to when our kids were small, trying to shovel vegetables in my kid's mouth and watching them vomit. I think there's a lot of truth behind what you're talking about with it not being good for you, because it
Yeah.
doesn't taste. I don't think there's a vegetable out here that I actually like. I just
Yeah.
never liked, hated them since I was a kid.
Yeah. Well,
So
even
I've always been a
broccoli.
potatoes guy.
Yeah. Well, like even broccoli, like that's probably
Oh, it's the
one.
worst. Well, Brussels sprouts is the top one.
I hate
I told
Brussels
my
sprouts.
wife,
Yeah. Well,
I told my wife Brussels sprouts taste like little toes with
yeah.
athlete's foot on.
Well, that's the thing, it's just like, that's the classic one that kids hate the most is Brussels sprouts. And I eat your Brussels sprouts. The kids are like, geez, no. And yeah, and they absolutely hate it. But like, I even hated broccoli when I was a kid. My parents had to put on like cheese sauce, melt cheese on it, and I would eat it for the cheese, and I would sort of suck off the cheese.
Same.
And
Same.
like, eat as little of the broccoli as possible. So because even then I was just like, I did not want this. And Brussels sprouts, we cook them, we roast them, we put Parmesan cheese and butter and salt and all these sorts of things just to make them palatable. People, oh yeah, no, they're good. And like, are they though? Because like, it's the stuff that you've added on it that make it palatable. But the Brussels sprouts itself don't taste great. And eating them raw is disgusting. Or even like, steaming them or boiling them and not adding any, animal fats or salt to it. Just the plant itself, even when cooked, tastes bad. And so that doesn't make sense from a biological point of view. Kids should like what is naturally good for them, right? So, I mean, kids, infants, really love breast milk, like should they hate it? Should they just want to spit it up and not consume it? That doesn't make sense. It's not compatible for life. You're not going to survive, if you hate the taste of something that's good for you, and so it should taste good. If it tastes bad, that means there's something bad in it, and there's outliers like sugar causes long-term harm to the body and short-term harm to metabolism, but it also gives you a quick hit of energy, and we recognize this as safe energy. So, because there's nothing that contains fructose that is acutely poisonous for humans. It will like kill you that day. So we recognize this as a safe temporary hit of energy. Then we can then go and get our normal food. But that's an outlier.
What's funny is I watched your video about fructose, but I was never really a fruit guy either. I mean, my wife, she's got fruit in the kitchen, and I'm trying to slowly drag her along with what I'm doing, and she's seeing it. She's seeing the results. I mean, the results speak for themselves. She knows where I was at when I got diagnosed, so she's starting to see this stuff now, and especially with the situation I mentioned to you about in our family, and what you talked about with GVM, with the guy that you had the interview with, about it stopping in its tracks and things like that. But I said, you're seeing skin issues heal up with me, because a lot of diabetics, they get venostasis in their legs from losing circulation, which was an indicator. I didn't know that I was diabetic, but that same year that I was told about the venostasis is when I found out about the diabetes. But now my skin is almost back to normal on the lower extremities because the A1C is down. The weight has been an interesting topic, because I know a couple of weeks ago when I had this physical, I was like 260. And then when I went and got the results, I was 279. So, but I'm down 2 pant sizes. I'm down shirt sizes. So,
but you're lifting weights though as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not a small guy. I mean, I was 340 when I started, but this 340, I've been 340 twice.
Yeah.
I was 345 years ago, and I was 340 in 2002. And then I went down to 240. And then, over the last, 18 years, I'm at 48 now. It hasn't gone anywhere. But when you told me about the muscle and losing the fat being in rapid fashion, I literally could see changes by the day, especially in my arms, like the veins just coming out everywhere, vascularity that I never had before. leaning out in certain areas, but the stomach is not, it's not down to where I'd like it to be, obviously. I was told that's the last to go. The face, that also goes last on a guy that's trying to lose weight. So,
Well, it just depends, but obviously, it takes time, and so it just won't all happen at once. But what weight were you in December when you really started going after this more seriously?
I started, I was 289 in
289. Okay,
yeah.
and now you weigh how much?
And the endocrinologist, when I went to see her, had me at 274.
274, but that's sort of gone down and up a bit. But you've also
But yeah, I got the lowest I got to when I weighed myself. I was in between the visit from then and a couple of weeks ago, because I had to see him 2 different times. They had me at like 263.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of gone up, but it's not like terrible. I know that different times of the day, maybe depending on if I went there with a full stomach.
And do you know, I know you're mostly carnivore, but you're still doing like energy drinks and artificial sweeteners. And
that's the thing that I mentioned that I would like to, when this gets published, it's a legitimate addiction. I really think Addicted to Bangs, my favorite energy drink. Any of the Spike Energy, they used to sponsor the UFC, 350 milligrams of caffeine. Because doing what we do, we drink caffeine. I don't like coffee. I never really liked coffee, but the energy drinks that come out with a new flavor, I'm like, it's like Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Oh, I got to try that one. I haven't tried that one yet. And with the Bangs, I know you said it's theorized that it could raise and affect your insulin levels. You said there's
plenty of studies showing that.
Yeah. It's just, and it doesn't register on a glucometer when I drink it. I used to put a CGM in my arm. I don't have it anymore. I use I think I sent you the photo of the CGM and the glucometer being 60 points off. That's huge. That's like not even funny. And the one I have is not one that you have to calibrate.
Yeah.
So, but I think Judy Cho's book on the carnivore cure, there's a section in there where she talked about they will not disclose to you how they make the insert that goes into your arm. It just says there's like a secret. I highlighted it in the book, but that was a concern.
Yeah.
Because when you're putting that fiber optic in your arm, it sits there for 14 days. Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, the Bangs, a lot of stevia. They have one called Pure, Pyure. You might have seen it over there, where they're organic stevia. Everything with stevia. And the Bai energy drink, it's not an energy drink, but it's like BAI. They're like little teas that are in a bottle, like clementine flavor or whatever, but they all have 0 sugar. All of them say 0 sugar. And I have tried to get rid of it, and I'm not lying to you about this, but I've told you it before, but it's been harder to get rid of than real carbohydrates and sugar. I'm not even lying. That's not an exaggeration. I really think there's something in that stuff. I don't know what it is, but
yeah. Well, just the artificial sweeteners, though. These are chemicals, and they're giving you a chemical response. And so, just because they aren't sugar, it doesn't mean that they are good for you or that they aren't bad for you, And so, things like stevia, say, oh, this is a sugar-free sweetener, and people forget that that doesn't say much about it. We have no actual studies and long-term evidence to show what sort of health effects this is going to have on people, and you can just see in your own experience that this is stalling your progression. This is stalling your performance and your weight loss, and it's also you are finding it very difficult to stop. And I think you were telling me as well that you were like, when you stopped for a few days, you were getting like really bad headaches, and you just feel like
really
flu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's withdrawals. That you're describing withdrawal symptoms. And so, that is a drug that is addictive, and whatever else it's doing, that is harmful. And so it's something that you really need to get away from your body. Now, there is, evidence to suggest that this will raise your insulin, and this will cause, issue with your metabolism, just like sugar will. But whether it does or it doesn't, whatever it does in your body, it's doing something bad just by the simple virtue that it's causing an addiction withdrawal when you stop taking it. That means that this is having a serious, chemical response in your body. And so that is something that you really do just need to get out of your system.
Well, I guess you could say the internal justification that I had to, like, it doesn't matter, and I'm not lying to you, I'm just telling you the truth, was there's a lot of friends that I know who've lost a lot of weight and have been successful using diet sodas and things like that to appease the craving and still lost the weight. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I've got people in my life that I know who lost it, but I don't think they had diabetes. I don't think any of them did. It's just, but I've met some guys who were really heavy that they switched from drinking regular soda to diet soda, and their weight fell off. So I've been around some people like that in my life, and I just think subconsciously I'm trying to justify it.
Well, but look, but you are losing weight, right? But you're not losing weight
it's
to the
just not
extent
as rapid. No.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I'm not sure, like I've never been lower than 241 ever. That's the lowest since I started lifting weights and got to the first time cutting down, and I wasn't on carnivore. It was just do an hour of cardio, lift weights, do the cardio after you lift weights. But it was like chasing your tail. And then when I got married in 2007, it just, I stopped training, and then I would eat, go back to the gym for a couple months, and then stop, and then eat a ridiculous amount of food. And it just started to eke up closer to like 300 pounds. And then I always hovered around 295 and never really got any lower than that. But I don't even know what my quote ideal body weight would be if I was to lose everything. I don't even know if 205 is doable. I would hope I could get to that, but I'm not sure.
I'm sure you probably can. So what are you eating now? Is it really just meat and water with some energy drinks every now and then, or what are you eating now?
Yeah, what I do is I go to Costco or BJ's and I buy ribeyes. And me don't agree right now. You had mentioned about, I was having real bad episodes with the fat at work because I was eating it at work, but ribeyes is just a little bit too much fat for me. I like them, but I noticed my stomach wouldn't agree with it. So I went down I will buy the whole New York strip loin. And then I take that knife, that big one that you have, but I have one like that too. And I just cut the steaks and put them in Ziploc bags and put them in a deep freezer that we got in the kitchen. Costco sells these burgers. I think I shot you a picture of them where they're already pre-flame broiled, and it's just beef. There's a few things. There's no artificial or junk in it, but it's like those patties that you told me about, where you can just throw them in the microwave and they're good. And we live off them practically. I don't eat bacon too much because it bothers my pork, really kind of upsets my stomach. But the fat thing that you told me about with if I have too much rapid fashion is definitely so. But I do like the steak, and I have the grill, but we also have the air fryer. The Ninja Foodie is a lifesaver. You just throw it in there and go get ready for work and come back, flip it over, and then go back and finish what you're doing. So when I don't want to grill outside, I just throw it. I normally throw it in there and make it that way. But eggs, I got to be in the mood for eggs. I'm not really a big egg guy. I don't know why. I can eat them, but it's basically been steak, water, and lots of energy drinks. Probably more energy drinks than water. Those bangs have 300 milligrams of caffeine, and I'll have one before work. I'll have one at midnight because I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've been on nights my whole career, 20 years. And then I'll have another one at midnight, and then I'll have one like at 3 a.m. Sometimes, not all the time, but it's like 900 milligrams of caffeine through 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think that's helping.
No, it's not helping. And you can just switch to caffeine pills as well, and not bring all the rest of the garbage to the table as well. Obviously, the energy drinks are going to have just a buttload of other chemicals in there with the caffeine, and it's going to have all the artificial sweeteners. So if you're just taking caffeine pills, which is also way cheaper because you get, a bottle of, 200 pills on Amazon for the cost of one of those energy drinks, so that's just, that's a money saver there as well. But also it's just, you get the caffeine and you don't get all the rest of the garbage. And then you can sort of, get yourself off of the caffeine pills eventually as well, because I just feel so much better without caffeine anyway. My body just works better. I have better energy, and I'll have like a bit of a spike with the caffeine, especially if I work all night, I'm on call all night and I don't get to sleep and I have to work the next day, sometimes I would take a caffeine pill and I would really debate with myself, but then sometimes I would do it. And so I'd be good for a few hours. I'd feel great, bouncing off the walls, because caffeine really affects me much more now. And then I would sort of have a crash and I would just feel junky and gross the rest of the day. And just the whole time I'd be like, that wasn't worth it. And so I've just done away with that entirely, but that's something to think about anyway. The other thing too, so, the weight is obviously that's improving, like you say, there's still room to go, but overall health-wise, how are you feeling? You're saying you had some health issues like diabetes. What's the update on that? How are you doing there?
So initial diagnosis was 9.8 in 2017. It fluctuated down to 9.3. I got as low as 7.2 and went back up. And then when I had my blood work done last month, which I have here, it's down to 6.3 right now. But
yeah,
I didn't. I took medication for like a week. Yeah, A1C is 6.3 right now. So I think 5.9 is not diabetic. Under 5.9 is not diabetic number anymore.
Yeah, it's like that. Around there, but you're in a really good range there. So I think you'd be like where you are now is actually considered like a pre-diabetic range.
Yes, that's what she told me.
Diabetic range. Yeah.
My endocrinologist basically told me I don't need to see her anymore.
Yeah. Which is good.
But my HDL is I'm not familiar with the ranges because they don't have it next to here what it's supposed to be, but they have me at 52.
For what, sorry?
For HDL, is that good?
Yeah, it's like above 40 is good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then they have my LDL is 134. My total cholesterol is 211, and my triglycerides are 126.
Yeah, and so basically, the only things that really matter there, really the only thing that matters there is your HDL. If your HDL is above 40, that's the only thing that really has any data behind it to show that something's good or bad. Like if you're above 40, you're in good shape. Triglycerides are generally low if you're in a healthy state and not damaging your cholesterol and damaging your LDL and in a position to precipitate atherosclerosis. But your triglycerides can be up for other reasons. But generally, if you're not eating carbs, you're not drinking alcohol, you're not eating sugar, your triglycerides will be low and your LDL will be undamaged. So whatever your LDL is, it's physiological. So I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah. So as Ken Berry says, HDL is our good cholesterol and LDL is our other good cholesterol. It's good. It's good stuff. It's the problem comes is when we damage it, and we damage it from alcohol, carbohydrates, and sugar, and that damages your LDL cholesterol. So if your triglycerides are low and your HDL is high, then you generally are in good shape. But I
don't understand this risk ratio section under the lipids panel. That's where she said I was at risk ratio 4.06 high for a cardiac event.
Yeah, so that's just looking at
blood pressure. My blood pressure was normal in the office. So wouldn't your blood pressure be elevated if you're going to have a cardiac event? I don't know.
No, not necessarily. No. Like the cardiac event they're talking about would be like a myocardial infarction, so like an occlusion of your blood vessel in your heart. So your blood pressure doesn't have to be high for that. Blood pressure becomes high for a number of different reasons. Most commonly because your arteries don't expand properly. When they expand and shrink and contract, you're going to change the pressure on that volume because the volume of blood in your body is stable, basically, right? So if your vessels sort of grow out a bit, that's going to reduce the pressure. And if it pushes down, you're going to be putting pressure on liquid, which is not compressible, right? So that's going to increase the pressure in that system. So that's outside of having a cardiac event. But so the cardiac event that they're talking about would be like an atherosclerotic plaque, where you block this vessel. And that's looking at your cholesterol ratio, basically. But it looks at like total cholesterol, it looks at LDL. Those things are nonsense. Those are not applicable. They don't have anything to do with it, because cholesterol was never the problem. Cholesterol is not a causative factor in heart disease. And so, yeah, well, exactly. And so it's a larger disease process, really. And so it's much more complicated than just, the amount of cholesterol you have in your system. So it's not a problem. Like, all these parameters and guidelines that we have for cholesterol and heart disease are just bunk, because they were brought up on false. It was a false premise. So, it's just something we just need to throw out. So,
the number that blew my mind the most on our discussion before you started the recording was the testosterone. 100 points, went up 100 points, and like, that was pretty low. I think they'd say under. I don't know if it goes by state, but someone said like under 300 is kind of low for a guy my age. I'm not sure.
Well, it depends on the age and depends on the area. So, like, different places have different guidelines. Yeah. So what was your testosterone before?
Yeah, 343 before. Now it's 441, almost 100 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's jumped up. Yeah. No, that's just jumped up, like another 33%, so that's a massive jump.
Well, one of the things that I asked the endocrinologist that she didn't have the answer for, and that's something I wanted to discuss with you, was I asked her, I said, what is it you're telling me you're obviously a low carbohydrate diet is working, because I told her that's what I was doing. And she said that you need to eat low fat and low carb and stay away from red meat. And I asked her that question that I said to you about, what is it about red meat that you're like zeroing in on? Why do you not want people to eat red meat? Because I'm eating red meat. You said not to do this. Everybody's told me this since I was a kid. And everything's going the opposite direction of everything that we were told to believe. So she didn't have an explanation for it. And that's when it's like, well, I don't have time to answer the questions, because we have nutritionists deal with this and have other clients. So basically get out in a roundabout way. But 100 points. How does it go up 100 points? Isn't it supposed to decline the older you get? That's what they told me. They said my condition couldn't be reversed. I do know that they say that once you have it, it's there. But, I can't go back out and eat popsicles and pizza and ice cream and Chinese food like I used to. I'm just not going to be able to do that. I don't think I would ever be able to do that and have a normal blood sugar, because I've already had it. I know they say diabetes can go in remission, but I guess you can't ever lose it once you get it. Is that true?
I mean, no one's ever really done this before. And so, no one's really ever reversed these things. And that's what, my mom's doctor said when she dropped her HbA1c from like 8.9 down to 6 in 2 months, going on a carnivore diet. And, she just looked at her, and at least my mom's doctor was a little more insightful and open-minded. Yeah. Because she didn't just go, oh yeah, and dismiss it. She just looked at it and she just went, how the hell did you do this? What the hell did you do? Like, diabetes is only a progressive disease. It only gets worse. It is not curable. We can mitigate it, and we can slow its progression down with medication and lifestyle and exercise. But that's it. This does not get better. We do not reverse this. How the hell did you do this? So she was looking at this going like, okay, something's going on, because you reversed this. We didn't think this was reversible. What did you do? Let's figure this out. And let's reproduce this. Unfortunately, your endocrinologist is a bit stuck, within the lines of her profession, and she doesn't want to learn anything new. That's sort of inside the box thinking. Everything that they learned in medical school and their training, that's the box that they live in, and there's nothing outside the box. And so,
it's funny you say that, because at work, we have a registered nurse practitioner that has to see people, and they're always telling them to not eat this, not eat that. And so when she was done, I just had to ask. I said, I told you about my situation with diabetes. Why do you keep saying the same things about stay low fat, don't eat a lot of sodium, blah, blah, blah. And she says, she goes, honestly, I'm just putting Band-Aids on wounds. Mm-hmm. She actually said that. And I said, yeah, I mean, because when I talked to her, that she already knew that everything I told her, she agreed with it 100%. She wasn't putting me on. It's just that's her job, is to tell them, and they don't have food choices where I work at. That's what they're fed very high grain, high starch, high carbohydrate food and very little protein. And then they end up having to go see the doctors because they're getting sick and diabetic. They're having high blood pressure, which was something else that was a discussion that I had with you before about this. I see it on World Carnivore Tribe and on your Carnivore Fix, but this thing about the electrolytes. I know this thing's taken off and people are asking about it, but you said something a while ago that I really took note of about. This wasn't around until recently, like in the last year. LMNT and Redmond Relight were two companies that I like, but a lot of us are like drinking it by the gallon and trying it. The unflavored version is like being drowned in an ocean. So they put stevia in those the products, but it's almost like just drinking a bang again. Yeah, because you can't get away from the artificial sweeteners. And I don't know, you had said that once your body levels out, you don't really need this. Am I going to go through the cramps? Is that going to continue for a while until I get better? I mean, because I do still get cramps from time to time in the calves and whatnot. I'm not sure.
I mean, it shouldn't, you know, I mean, you know, I was saying, I mean, we didn't have LMNT, you know, and Redmond Relight, you know, even 20 years ago. We certainly didn't have it 10,000 years ago.
Gatorade and sugar.
Yeah, you know, we didn't have these things historically when we were just eating meat. So we got everything we needed from meat. Now, could you be in a position when you're switching over and your body has some readjustment issues? Sure, that might happen. Most of the time, I've noticed, and I mentioned this to you, it's more to do with dehydration rather than a lack of electrolytes or salt. And a lot of times people, you know, they're like, oh, I'm having these problems with cramps, and then they start adding salt to everything. They're just dumping salt in their water, and they're drinking it and doing all these sorts of things, and they're just getting more and more cramps and more and more cramps and more and more cramps. So they're adding more and more salt, and they're getting more cramps. It's like, well, maybe that's sort of adding fuel to the fire. You're making yourself a little more dehydrated, and you're increasing your body's demand for water. You know, this is something that, you know, I just see in you know, the hospital. We get patients with low sodium and with low potassium. They don't get a bunch of cramps. They're not just sitting there in bed, you know, just with their bodies just cramping up to no end. You know, low potassium gives you heart arrhythmias, and you can die. Low sodium makes you very confused and delirious, and you can die. So these are very, very serious things. You don't just casually get, you know, hyponatremic or hypokalemic, and then, you know, it's just, oh, I'm getting some cramps or something like that. No, you're having a serious medical condition if your serum potassium or your serum sodium is actually getting low. So I don't think that it makes physiological sense. And what I've seen more often than not is that this can be fixed with more hydration, just drinking more water. Now, you know, sometimes when people go to the tropics and they're sweating a lot more and they're sweating out a lot of, you know, salty sweat, that, you know, might give people more cramps. But again, that can just be dehydration as well. But
you think that the water thing is individualistic based on each person? Because obviously they used to, you know, drink the gallon of water, but that's insane. I'm in the bathroom the entire night while I'm sleeping. So it's like, I find that on the job, I don't get thirsty that much because I'm walking, I'm busy. I might take a swig here and there, but I'm not pounding water like crazy when I'm at work because I don't want to be in the bathroom every 2 minutes. But do you think that the water thing is individual based on your height, your size, your weight? I mean, do you think it's different for everybody? Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everybody needs different amounts of water, you know, depending on obviously their size and their activity level, and, you know, the heat of the area that they're in. If they're out in the sun, you know, working or exercising outside, you know, and they're sweating a lot or getting overheated, you're going to need a lot more water. But, you know, just from what you're saying there, you know, you work all night and you're not really drinking because you don't want to have to take a bunch of bathroom breaks because it's not feasible for your work. And then you don't want to eat, you don't want to drink a bunch of water when you get home because you're going to be waking up and peeing all night, and that's going to interrupt your sleep. So realistically, how much water are you drinking in an average day?
I'd probably drink 2 liters, probably half a gallon, like 64 ounces total. I mean, I don't drink a gallon. It's hard for me to get
Yeah.
that much water down.
I mean,
Well,
you're big.
probably between the bangs
Oh
and
gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I drink these Perriers.
Yeah.
I might have some bottles. This is 16 ounces. I might have 3 of those and maybe 2. The Evian bottles, the spring water drink is like 33 ounces. I might have 2 of those. And so maybe 80 ounces a day
Yeah. But you're
total.
also drinking those, massive amounts of caffeine and other stimulants, which are
I,
diuretics, which are going to make
yeah,
you pee more.
it's probably
So
why I'm getting cramps.
yeah, well, 100%. Like, so like that's what I'm saying. Like
Oh, just answered my own question.
yeah. But but that's the thing, and then you add in a bunch of electrolytes, you add in a bunch of salt to everything. There's gonna be too much, and now your body's gonna want more hydration to pee out these excess electrolytes that it doesn't want. And so, that I think is what the problem is.
I never
And
thought of it like that. That's true. So if you're drinking too much salt, like when you eat the salty potato chips, that makes you thirsty, right? So wouldn't drinking sodium make you
yeah,
more thirsty? I
100%.
mean,
That's why
how
there's
would that
salt.
hydrate? They say it's hydration. That's the claim on the product. But if you're hydrating, but you're drinking salt, that would make you more thirsty.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it seems like you're just spinning your wheels. It doesn't,
Yeah. Well,
light
it's
switch
like
could be turned on.
Well, it's like drinking seawater, right? Like you're not going to hydrate drinking seawater. You'll die. And so, this is why they add salt to sodas, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, is because, first of all, you can add more sugar because sugar and salt, the taste of sugar and salt offset each other. And so
Yeah.
you can add in more sugar and it's too sweet, but then you add in a bunch of salt and it doesn't taste as sweet. But now you've added a bunch of salt. And so now you're going to be more thirsty, and you're going to want to drink more. You want to drink more, but also you can add in more sugar where it'd be like disgusting, too sweet. Now it's just the right amount of sweetness, and sugar is addictive. And so sugar is going to make you addictive. The salt's going to make you thirsty, and the caffeine is going to addict you as well. So they hit you 3 times. And
Yeah.
as a result,
That's one
people
thing is
crush these things.
to confirm that actually when I was really bad and diabetic, I would drink like Martinelli's. They make that sparkling apple cider
Oh
in the
yeah, which is
bottles.
great.
And
Yeah.
but Costco sells the 6-pack,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I could literally drink all those bottles in like an hour
Yeah.
because they're so good. But what would happen would
Yeah.
be I would literally be in the bathroom every 15 minutes because the body's just trying to flush out all that sugar.
Yeah.
And now that you're talking about the sodium, it's doing the same thing. I didn't even think of it like that until you said it. But
Yeah.
but anytime I would have that Martinelli's, there's 33 grams of sugar per serving, is like 3.5 in a bottle. So I would drink like 5 of those
Yeah.
in an hour because it was so good. Put it on ice and let it
Yeah.
bubble up and drink it. But I never thought of it like what you just said, because the sodium's probably doing the same thing,
Yeah, it
making
is.
your, and
Yeah.
I'm not holding the water. Maybe it's actually the reason why I'm holding on to my weight, because does it sodium cause the weight to stay? Doesn't it draw the water in the
Yeah, I
body tight?
mean that's a thought, is that it sort of retains water, but you're going to retain water for a lot of different reasons as well, as long as you're, you know, eating something besides, meat and water, and so those artificial sweeteners, the artificial crap in those drinks, that's, I can't say for sure. I can tell you exactly, how carbohydrates and glycogen and different sorts of, plant toxins will make you retain water. But artificial stuff, I would just, imagine that this is going to be along the same lines as that. And but either way, your body's not going to be working optimally. You're screwing with your energy metabolism. You're going to be, screwing with your insulin and your body's ability to mobilize fat stores and run properly. And you're not hydrated, and you're, over salted, and you're getting these cramps. And so you know that your body's not working 100%. So something's going on. So you just have to adjust those little things to get into that optimal zone, and then your body will just start working properly. But either way, I mean, you're doing better than 99% of the people out there, and you are getting good results, and like you were telling me, like you're back in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're obviously putting on muscle. We can try to put up some sort of before and after pictures as well, but you sort of sent me different pictures, and you're definitely slimming up, and you're
Yeah,
also bulking
everybody
up.
on the job, it's like people are just saying, "What are you doing?" They're asking questions, and I'm just
Yeah,
like, I said, "Do you eat any vegetables?" And I said, "I haven't eaten vegetables since I was a kid, even before I
yeah,
got on Carnivore." But one of the topics, I know that you're pressed for your time, but maybe we could hook up later on today if you're not busy. Is I wanted to talk to you about that sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the eating
Mhm.
thing, because I know a number of people that do eat one meal a day. They're not intentionally fasting, but they're busy.
Yeah,
And I had some thoughts I wanted to ask you about that with the subject of what you were just mentioning too about I just lost my train of thought on that because I'm up late.
yeah,
Just the salt, the sodium. It's a question that maybe you could think about, but I've said where some people just follow that diet until their body gets better and then add the exercise to it. Maybe it's too much at once, especially if you're just starting it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I've heard some people
yeah.
just say, "Why don't you just get your diet right and then add the exercise first?"
I know.
I
I
don't
guess
know.
I guess it's all individual. For me, I liked doing the exercise, and I felt so much better. I wanted to exercise, and so that wasn't a problem for me. But it's if it's overwhelming for someone, yeah, just focus on the diet first. I mean, that's definitely the most important. And after a few weeks, you'll feel so much better than you ever have before, that you'll want to start being active. You'll want to start being more physically active, and exercising, or playing sports, or just doing something physical, just because you feel good and you want to go out and use your body. But yeah, so because of this, being at work, I know we've spoken about this, but like, for me, eating this way is really convenient, because I don't have to eat all the time, and I don't have to
No.
take breaks. I don't have to do lunches. You work overnight as well. You're sort of in the same boat. How's that been for you?
Well, I've been on nights since I was in the military, 1992. I've never been really a day shift guy, but
Mm,
I find that in my profession, I don't get hungry. I'm not hungry when I wake up ever. I'm never hungry. I know I have to go to work. I know situations could pop off. Same in your environment when you're a first responder, you don't know what's going to happen. And I like to be able to respond and not have everything in my stomach. And that's where I started doing some reading about the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And it just kind of dawned on me. You had mentioned in a lot of your videos, this is just something that's came up to me in like the last week.
yeah.
Talking to my wife about the rest and digest is when I get home. My shift is backwards to the rest of the world. So my dinner is actually when I get home. And so I said, why don't I just go to work? And then I know I'm going to come home and have a great meal. And I didn't think I could sleep good. And I've been sleeping fantastic. That's something that I've been working 16 hours a day, 12-hour days, couldn't sleep because of probably the bangs. But even when I drink them now, I'll pass out when I get home. It doesn't matter if I had caffeine right before I came home. My son just woke me up at 5:30. I had to be at work at 7
Yeah.
yesterday. And I was like, I was out for, I didn't even wake up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It was weird. It's never happened to me before. When you get up and it hurts because you're like, I gotta go. But I've never slept more than 6-7 hours, and now I'm getting that 6-7. It's never happened in my entire life, my adult life, since I've been out of the house. Maybe 3 or 4 hours a day,
Yeah.
and the sleeping thing. But I kind of was wondering about that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
That's something I want to discuss with you because I know that you deal with that as a doctor, that you have to be alert, and when you're operating on someone, you don't want to cut the wrong whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I mean, yeah,
Well,
yeah, you're exactly right. The sympathetic nervous system, this has to do with like your fight or flight responses. Parasympathetic, this would be rest and digestion. We hear about this all the time, those different pathways. That has a lot to do with when, timing of when we eat. And you think about this, in nature, like, if you're if you're hunting something and you're like, say, a lion, and you're going after, a gazelle, you need to be on your game. You need to be at the height of your athletic ability and potential to be as explosive and deadly as possible.
Yeah.
And
And that's
or else
something
you're
that
not going to eat.
you saying that word, literally explosive. There's when fights happen where I'm
Yeah,
at, you got to be ready to. They might swing on you. They're swinging on each other. You got to get involved in that.
yeah,
And that's something I was like, I've been thankful not to have been in that situation before, except for once in my career. And I
mm,
threw up all over the place. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see that everything at work is centered around food.
yeah,
First responders, they've got snack bars. People are going out to eat all the time. They're doing the energy drinks. I feel tired. I got to go eat something. And I've been in that game, and I see it now looking outside through the lens of diabetes and the stuff that I've inflicted upon myself, and I don't want a part of it anymore. And just
yeah,
uh, it's something I read. I wrote down some names here. Ori Hofmeckler wrote the Warrior Diet book. You may be familiar with that. He's a 1 meal a day. He was a Israeli defense soldier. Herschel Walker,
yeah.
1 meal a day. And another guy I wanted to mention to you that I didn't tell you was General Stanley McChrystal. He's a 4-star Army general. If you
Yeah.
look him up on Wikipedia, he's been eating 1 meal a day since he was a lieutenant,
Nice.
because he would go out and run 7 miles when he wakes up and eat right before he goes to bed. He has a YouTube video that's like 2 minutes long that you could watch about. They ask him about his diet, and he says, I eat at the end of the day when my energy wanes. I eat right before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's a 4-star Army general, made it to the top, eating 1 meal a day since he was a lieutenant.
Yeah.
And in 37 years
Yeah.
service, that's a long time to go once a day, run 7 miles right out of the bed.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, from a guy like you said you like to play sports like that and train like that. Did you do your mixed martial arts and always train fasted yourself?
Always. Yeah. Yeah. No, I never. Yeah. If it was like during the day, when I would be at school or whatever, and you'd get lunch during school, I would never sort of eat after that. And so I would certainly never eat within 2 hours of training. But like that was actually too close as well. So I liked it like 5-6 hours between eating and training. And then on game days, I would never eat. So I would always play hungry. I would always play. I didn't think about it as fasting. I just knew that like I didn't play as well if I had eaten something. And so even when I was playing like sevens tournaments where it's like an all day event, I just would not eat the entire day. And so, we would make it, we'd go all the way through, playing the finals, whatever. So we'd be playing all day until, that evening. And I just wouldn't eat. And I would just be drinking water, And that was always how I felt the best. And anytime I would eat something, I always regretted it. Always regretted it. I didn't feel on my game. Sort of, had a uneasy stomach, might puke, puke up what I just ate, or just felt more lethargic because, like you said, there's parasympathetic and sympathetic, change. You go down like when you're going out and you're hunting, you're hungry and your brain's going like, if you don't get a kill, you're going to die. You're not going to make it. You got to go. So everything's being pumped in there to you being your athletic best and at your physical height in order for you to get that kill, because you have to get it. And then when you get it and you start eating and you eat enough of it, and your brain just goes, right, we did it, we did our thing, now let's conserve, because nature is nothing if it's not efficient. And so you're not going to waste a single calorie more than you have to. So if you're not using something, that process is going to shut down. This is why our muscles atrophy. It's why our brain atrophies, or different glands atrophy. If we're not using them, our body's not going to be putting in a lot of expensive energy that could cost us our life down the road by maintaining them. And so if you're not stimulating them, your body's just going to, shut them down. It's being very efficient. And so when you get that kill, when you get that food and you eat that and you fill up, your body just goes, right, shut it down. You don't need to burn a bunch of energy now. We did what we needed to do, calm down. And so if you do that during the day or before a workout or before you're at work, you're just going to be much more lethargic and lackadaisical, because you're going to be now in that parasympathetic system.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've always naturally, long before I ever did carnivore, I just would never eat on a game day whenever I was going to compete. And that was something that sort of rolled into just only eating right before I went to bed as well, because I was doing all these things during the day and I didn't want to eat,
And
before
your
I did
body
it.
uses it to repair the tissues and everything that you broke down, like the muscles.
Well, that's
While you're
it too.
That's
Yeah.
kind of, because
Yeah.
last week I had something happen where I came home from work and I fell asleep. I didn't even eat when I came home. It was 2 days. I made myself eat when I got up, but it was a mistake because I went to work and paid for it. I didn't feel good at all. But if you come home from work, that's something I was going to ask you. And you're tired. Like I was tired. Just I went to bed and I woke up one day and I went to work without eating. I didn't eat anything. I wasn't. It's not that I couldn't have. I just felt so good on that high that I wanted to go into work the same day. And then the next day I ate at the wrong time and I paid for it. But if you're tired when you get home from work and you don't want to eat, have you ever just went to
Oh,
bed
yeah.
and not eat because you were so tired and you went like 40 hours or 30 hours or however long it was with no food and you just went to bed and passed out and slept like a rock?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just sometimes you just have to, and, especially when it's like, when you've been working, ungodly amount of hours, and, and you only have 6 hours to sleep before you have to go and do it again.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend an hour or more cooking and eating, or do you just want to get some damn sleep and figure the rest of it out tomorrow? Worst case scenario, when I'm at work and I need to eat, I just order 10 eggs and 6 large pieces of bacon
No way I
from
could
the
do
restaurant there.
that. You got me on that one because I could not eat it. But your job is obviously a lot different when I'm dealing
Well,
with
that's
customer service.
yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is that, like, if I don't eat until I'm actually like fully full, then I find I don't get in that really shut down mode. I'm still a bit hungry uh, after I eat, then my body's still like going, oh, it's not enough. It's not enough. We've still got to go. We've got to hunt something else. That animal was too small. Kill something bigger. And so you still sort of get that. And so if I eat during the day, because sometimes I will, sometimes, just eating once at night, if I'm working out a lot, my body is trying to stack on muscle. It wants me to eat more than once a day. And so if I, do that, then I find that it's better if I sort of eat not quite as much as I want to at the
And
time.
obviously, I was going to ask, piggybacking off of that, if you don't mind me asking real quick.
Mhm.
So with me trying to lose weight, there's been times where I've had an incredible workout and thought I was going to be hungry when I go home, and I wasn't.
Yeah,
So should I pay attention to that? Because I don't get hungry when I work out. I actually get less hungry. So does that mean my body's feeding off of itself?
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I've read about protein recycling through the colon. We don't need this 1 gram per pound of protein per body weight. Like I heard this is all a myth. Your body recycles protein.
Well, the thing is that, just listen to your body. If you're eating what your body is designed to eat, whatever is happening in whatever ratios, it's supposed to be happening that way. So just eat meat and just let your body take care of the rest. Don't worry about macros. Don't worry about how many grams of protein you have or whatever. It really, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, as long as you're eating the right thing and you're listening to your body. So if you're really not feeling hungry, then don't eat. But obviously hunger signals are very, very different on a carnivore diet. So just obviously you want to make sure that you're not hungry, and so you just try eating meat. And if meat doesn't taste good and you're just like, oh no, I really don't want to eat that, that's just your body saying, no, we don't need this. And I've certainly noticed that, especially when I had excess fat to lose. And so even when I was doing massive workouts, I would do that. But yeah, so just listen to that, but try eating something and see how it goes. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about how much protein you're getting in, or this, that, and the other, as a percentage of your weight. As long as you're eating meat until you're full and you're listening to your body, that's really the only thing.
Yeah, because I've had that experience, your tomahawk experience, where you said
Yeah.
you cooked it up and took 2 bites, and you're like, put it
Yeah.
back in the fridge for like 4 days. And I've had
Yeah.
that happen. I cooked a credible steak and I took a bite and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this right now, and put it in the fridge.
No.
I it's I think it's that bodybuilding dogma. We're so around food, diet food, all the stuff. We're wondering, worrying about how much we need to eat. And like you said, maybe I didn't even know or think for years that, your body just tells you, hey, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, Joshua, I do have to run because I've got another appointment starting up, but we should definitely do this again. Thank you for just telling us your story and seeing how you've been. I think you're doing great. Definitely, we're going to be talking again and checking up on you and seeing when you actually get off the artificial sweeteners and drinks, and then see how you do continually down the road, and just keep checking your results. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I thank you for your videos and your sites.
Yeah.
I appreciate you responding to me. You don't have to, but you do. I appreciate that.
Not a problem, man. All right, buddy. Good talking to you, and we'll see you another time.
All right. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, man.